You probably heard of the 4% rule. It basically says that if you want a high likelihood of having your retirement portfolio last through life expectancy, you can only take out 4% of your retirement balance per year adjusted for inflation. Here's the problem with the 4% rule. It's a pretty expensive way to go about saving for retirement. For example, if you needed $100,000 pre-tax to meet your retirement needs in retirement, and the most you can ever take out is 4%, you'd have to have accumulated $2.5 million by day one of your retirement. But what if you're not on track to accumulate the amount of money required to safely meet your lifestyle needs by retirement? What if you have a shortfall? To illustrate the various alternatives to bridge a potential retirement shortfall, let me share an example from my best-selling book, The Volatility Shield. Jack Wheeler is 45 years old and he wants to retire at age 65. He's making $150,000 per year and wants $100,000 per year pre-tax above and beyond what Social Security provides. He also has $230,000 in his 401k and is currently contributing $19,000 per year and getting a 3% match. He believes he can grow his money at 7% net of fees over time. But Jack has a problem. Given all these variables, he will only have accumulated $1.85 million by day one of retirement. That's $650,000 shy of what he'll need to meet his lifestyle needs over the arc of a 25-year retirement based on the 4% rule. At this point, Jack really only has 5 options to bridge this retirement shortfall. First, he can save more money. How much more? We're talking an additional $16,000 per year. That means he'll have to trim back his lifestyle in the short term. Second, he can spend less. That means instead of living on $100,000 per year in retirement, he'll have to back that down to $74,000 per year. Third, he can work longer. Instead of working until 65, work until 69. Unfortunately, Jack doesn't want to work any longer than he absolutely has to. Fourth, he can die sooner. This is, of course, tongue-in-cheek, but if Jack spent $100,000 per year, there's a good chance he could run out of money far in advance of life expectancy. And Jack's fifth option is to take more risk in the stock market. So instead of adopting, say, a 60-40 stock bond mix, he can put a much larger allocation into his stocks with the hopes of getting 9% instead of 7%. Of course, taking more risk is no guarantee either because Jack could end up with even less money. In summary, Jack can save more, spend less, work longer, die sooner, or take more risk in the stock market. So most Americans look at these options with disdain because every last one of them causes heartburn. Well, what if I told you there was a 6th option that could help you bridge your retirement shortfall without all the angst that goes along with those first 5 approaches? I outlined that option in my best-selling book, The Volatility Shield. By the way, it's also highlighted in a recent study by Ernst & Young. But I have to warn you, the 6th option requires that you be open-minded and willing to embrace the principles of math. As it turns out, the reason why you can only take out 4% of your portfolio is because in the first 10 years of retirement, you'll typically experience 2 to 3 down years in the market. In truth, that's why the 4% rule is as low as it is. When you take larger distributions during those down years, it can send your portfolio into a death spiral from which it never recovers. So the question becomes, what if there were a way to avoid having to take money out of your stock market portfolio during those 2 to 3 down years per decade in retirement? You can then allow your portfolio to recover before resuming distributions in the ensuing years. If you let your portfolio recover before taking further distributions, you'd find that your sustainable withdrawal rate in retirement would rise considerably. How high? We'll get into that in a minute. Of course, all this begs the question, if you aren't paying for living expenses out of your retirement portfolio, how are you paying for them? You'll have to set up an additional account that I refer to as a Volatility Shield. And that Volatility Shield account needs to have some very specific attributes to be able to accomplish its purpose. First, it has to grow safely and productively. You can't combat market risk with an account that's exposed to market risk. Plus, you need to be able to grow this account between 5 and 7% net of fees over time. It will be much easier to accumulate the amount of capital required to shield yourself from volatility if that money is growing productively between now and when you retire. Second, your Volatility Shield has to be tax-free. This is imperative because if you don't have to pay taxes during the accumulation and distribution phase, your money will grow more efficiently and you won't have to save as much along the way. Also, if you can take distributions from your Volatility Shield tax-free, you aren't exposing yourself to tax rate risk, and distributions don't count as provisional income. That means they won't count against the thresholds which cause Social Security taxation. Third, your Volatility Shield needs to be in place by day one of your retirement. You have to be in a position to distribute money from your Volatility Shield to pay for lifestyle expenses immediately, because you never know when that down year in the market is going to take place. It could be in the year right before you retire. In summary, your Volatility Shield needs to grow safely and productively in a tax-free environment. It needs to be in place by day one of retirement. But does an account that possesses all of these qualities actually exist? It does. And this is where you have to shelve all of your biases and preconceived notions about personal finance, because the only account that accomplishes this is cash value life insurance. And the type of life insurance that I think does it best is called indexed universal life. Here's why indexed universal life insurance works so well in this capacity. First, it grows safely and productively. It has a proven track record of earning between 5 and 7% net of fees over time. Second, not only does it allow you to take money out tax-free, but it allows you to take money out cost-free as well. All life insurance policies allow for tax-free distributions, but not all life insurance policies allow for cost-free distributions. In fact, some policies charge you a net rate of interest to access your own money. And this interest can accrue so quickly that you'll be constrained to pay it back out of your retirement cash flow. Not so with Indexed Universal Life. If you find the right company, they'll guarantee that your distributions are tax-free and cost-free, so you won't be required to pay the money back. And lastly, because the IUL grows in a safe and productive way, it increases the likelihood that you'll have accumulated enough money by day one of retirement to protect your portfolio from volatility. Okay, now that we know that the Volatility Shield exists, let me show you the real-life implications of utilizing it in your retirement plan. Let's go back to our Jack Wheeler example from earlier. If you recall, Jack had saved $230,000 by the time he was 45, believed he could grow his money at 7% over time, was contributing $19,000 per year with a 3% match, and was slated to have a $650,000 shortfall by the time he reached retirement. So what could we do to help Jack reach his retirement goals without resorting to those 5 painful alternatives I mentioned earlier? Here's what I'd recommend. Let's reduce his 401k contribution down to the match of 3%. That way he's contributing $4,500 per year and the company is throwing in $4,500 as well. We would then take the balance of $14,500 and divert that to his Volatility Shield account. Of course, he'd have to pay taxes on that amount, let's call it 30%, leaving him with $10,150 that he could contribute to his IUL Volatility Shield every year between now and retirement. By the time he reaches retirement, however, he'll only have accumulated $1,258,986 in his 401k, far short of the $2.5 million he needed by day one of retirement. However, he will also have accumulated $375,000 in his IUL Volatility Shield. That's enough to pay for 4 full years of after-tax lifestyle expenses in retirement. In other words, he could pay for his living expenses out of his IUL Volatility Shield 4 times following down years in the stock market. When I put all of these variables into my Volatility Shield calculator, it tells me that instead of being able to take only 4% distributions in retirement, he can now take 8% distributions with a 95% success rate. Still skeptical? Well, multiply 8% by $1,258,986 and see what you get. You get $100,718. Because of the IUL Volatility Shield, he has now exceeded his goal of having $100,000 per year and has a 95% chance of having his retirement savings last through life expectancy. And all that without having to save more, spend less, work longer, die sooner, or take more risk in the stock market. By the way, if you're wondering about my Volatility Shield calculator, it performs thousands of Monte Carlo scenarios on the history of the S&P 500 index. I had it created by an actuary who does these types of computations for a living, so the calculator is pretty airtight. If you want to learn more about how to incorporate an IUL volatility shield into your tax-free retirement plan, be sure to check out my tax-free toolkit. You can download it for free at taxfreetoolkit.com. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified Power Zero advisor, head over to powerzero.com and opt into my free 3-part video series. By the way, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I respond to every single one of them personally, and don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.